How did geologists miss the signs of building in the continents? How did geologists and their students, and we're all their students, miss the artifice of the true ancients who built the continents? Why have so many people looked at the continents, looked at the continental features, hills, mountains, riverbeds, creek beds, valleys, and seen natural material? Well, the answer is very simple. In academia, we are told that we, Homo sapiens sapiens, are the first advanced race in the universe. It's true. This bizarre and absurd claim is foisted upon us as the best knowledge we have. But NASA says on their website, but we're looking for ET life. Oh, you're looking? Really? Is that why you turn your cameras away whenever there's a spaceship that flies into frame? You turn your cameras off. We're looking. No, you're not. You're doing your best to not look. So, academia, ruled by the Rockefellers, ruled by the Rothschilds in Europe, and U.S. academia is ruled by the Rockefellers at the behest of the Rothschilds, who couldn't handle all of it. They just take on the European academic textbooks. Academia has told us in the earth sciences that we are the first advanced race in the universe, and then we easily conclude from that if we are the first advanced race, then the earth, Terra, and all the planets and all the suns and all of space and every organism that ever existed must have come into existence through natural forces. We weren't around to build planets, suns, solar systems, galaxies, space, organisms, grasshoppers, snakes, trees. We didn't engineer any of that. We couldn't have, because we just appeared on the scene a mere few 100,000 or few million years ago, depending on who you talk to. So, and we know that if we're the first advanced race, there were no other races around to do any of that either. So this is the problem. This is the bottleneck. This is the intellectual bottleneck in academia. It creates all of the problems in all of the sciences. Because whether you're pointing a telescope at the world or a microscope, you believe, based on this false premise that we are the first advanced race, that what you're looking at must have come into existence through natural forces. Every organism must have come into existence naturally. I wonder how it came into existence. Let's write a book on that. Maybe it didn't come into existence naturally, and you don't have to write a book on it. Maybe it's much simpler than that, in the sense that it can be explained with one sentence. It was created by an advanced race. How they did it, that's a different story. But if we look at the continents, the evidence is that the continents were created by an advanced race or races. We have the evidence. A lot of it's on my channel. Just look at the Artificial Riverbeds playlist. No, of course, we are not the first advanced race in the universe. The only way they got away with even suggesting that is to create this bizarre Big Bang fairy tale, which gives us a young universe, 13.8 billion years as a time limit to the universe. In a young universe, it's plausible to imagine that we're the first advanced race, but obviously the Big Bang is nonsense. I mean, there's no science whatsoever that the Big Bang happened. There are many books that have been written in the last 20 years that show scientifically that the Big Bang could not have happened and did not happen. So Eric Lerner's book, The Big Bang Never Happened, is great. Hilton Ratcliffe's book, The Static Universe, is amazing. Halton Arp wrote a book called Seeing Red. Wallace Thornhill wrote a book on the bizarre notion of the Big Bang. This bizarre fairy tale that academia cooked up to give us a young universe so that we could think we're the first advanced race. That's the limit to our story. They want to corral us in this weird backwater idea that we're the first advanced race, and so at the same time we're small and we have this weird ego because we're the best, we're the first, we're the smartest. So we have this blown up ego at the same time as we feel that we're really small in an incoherently large and insentient universe. So this is great for them, for the controllers. They love that. They love the slaves to to have both of these false notions in their head, that we're both the best and the smallest, because they put us in a very precarious position. That's what they want. They want us to be off balance at all times. So the young universe theory gives us this quality of being off balance, because none of it makes any sense. The Big Bang, none of it makes any sense. Everything came from nothing. Well, it's just nonsense. It's just nonsense on the face of it. And then when you go into the details, then you see, oh my God, none of it is correct. It's all lies. It's all nonsense. It's all jerry-rigged, this Big Bang nonsense. So the young universe theory made it plausible that we could imagine that we're the first advanced race in the universe. It's such a young universe. Oh, we're the first ones to raise our heads above the muck and mire. Wow, how lucky. Isn't that wonderful? But we know that as far as science is concerned, real science, extra academic science, science outside of the controlled universities, real science tells us that we live in a universe of infinite time. Now, that gives us, life forms in the universe, an infinite amount of time to advance technologically. So you can imagine how many races there are that have advanced technologically far beyond what we could possibly comprehend. We're not the first advanced race, we're the last, and we're not that advanced. Compared to the races that have been around here for millions and billions and trillions of years, we are like babies in a Tesla factory. And by the way, Nikola Tesla, I wish they hadn't taken Tesla's name for the car and for those other bizarre operations that Elon's doing, because Tesla was so far beyond what Elon's doing before he died. I mean, my God. It's a significant step down to go from Nikola Tesla to the Tesla company. It's really sad and kind of a joke, actually. I'll just mention briefly something that is able to be found out by anyone, but most people don't know this. Elon Musk was given money by the ICC. I'm not sure if I'm going to tell you what the ICC is right now, but you can find it out if you want to. The ICC, they gave him money through various corporations. They funded Elon's dreams to keep him and to keep us pigeonholed in this bizarre rockets are the best we can do if we're going to do space travel world. It's so ridiculous. Rocket technology has been obsolete since day one of rocket technology. But, you know, Elon doesn't know this. He thinks he's doing the best he can with our present day physics. And the ICC thinks it's really funny that Elon is trying to build rockets. Yay, rockets! I mean, they have, and they have had for decades here on Earth, they, the controllers, have had anti-grav spacecraft that go to the moon and Mars all the time. And we have bases on the moon and Mars and other moons and planets throughout the galaxy. Throughout the galaxy. Not just near to us, throughout the galaxy. So we have spacecraft that zip around so fast that a rocket is like, it's not even worth thinking about. And yet Elon's all excited about it because they gave him the money to get excited about it, you know? It's so sad. So you'll find out what the ICC is. Just go find Dan Cooper's 3-part interview on Journey to Truth, and then you'll find out what the ICC is. And he talks about Elon Musk too. in our universe, which is the universe of infinite time according to science, or could be a universe of 21 trillion years according to the Andromedans, and that information is given us by Alex Collier. But 21 trillion years compared to 13.8 billion is the difference between night and day. In such a universe, we have races advancing technologically to be able to build planets as if it's just the easiest thing in the world, and fun too. I mean, if once you're advanced to a certain point, building planets would be a lot of fun. It'd be a lot of fun. It's an experiment. Let's see what grows here. Let's see what happens on this planet. Let's see what races come to live here. Let's see what organisms thrive here. We'll make each planet different. That's how you can get continents built. So instead of immediately saying, well, building a continent is too large scale a project, so I immediately reject that theory. Instead of that, say, well, if advanced races do exist, then planet building would be to them, by now, after millions, billions, or trillions of years of advancing technologically, would be to them child's play. Now, why they built in sections, I don't know. But like I said, right here, at the base layer, they had very few section breaks. You can't see any section breaks for probably 40 or 50 meters. I can't see any. So it's more than 50 meters in this lower section until we get to right here, just by the creek bed that they built that was then covered over by modern day concrete. But they're rounding up to go at a right angle to their original creek bank or river bank to make their little creek bank there. And so then they start sectioning. Interesting, right? So I just took a canoe over here through the lily pads and put the canoe there where this boat ramp is. There used to be a creek here. The landowners concreted over the creek to make a boat ramp. So the river, the Guadalupe, is flowing that way, but this slowly curves around and is now starting to point up this way at a 90 degree. And this also curves around. So this was built as an entrance to a creek bed by the true ancients who built both the creek bed and the riverbed. There's the concrete river bank meant to hold in vast amounts of water. So it rises steeply. The geologists say it just happened, but we know from the sectioning of the true ancients, section on the left, section on the right, right? Section on the left, section on the right. You can see that goes all the way down. So we can see what we're talking about. Integral seam. Geologists call it a crack. It's not a crack. It's an integral seam between two sections of concrete. So this seam runs from top to bottom. Now I just saw this. I didn't plan this. But this is how they built. It's a vertical seam in what is supposed to be sedimentary material. How does one line, that's obviously not a fracture, but a seam that joins together, a fracture breaks apart. This is a seam that's joining two sections together very strongly. How does one line run vertically through sedimentary material? And by the way, where is the sedimentary material evidence? Well, there's one line that could be thought of as sedimentary because it's a horizontal line, but then the rest of it's not horizontal at all. It's just amorphous, let's call it. And that's amorphous up there. We've got a little bit of material that looks like it has some sedimentary quality to it here, but it's concrete, so we don't have to worry about the fine details. But although the ancients did worry about the fine details all across the continents, they were meticulous builders. So they made sure that the two sections of concrete came together strongly right there. Now this particular vertical line, it's about a 45 that mimics the 45 over there, okay, does not go through the second layer, but this one does. It's pretty interesting, right? So they're doing asymmetrical sectioning. Asymmetrical. So in other words, different sizes and different shapes. If that line had gone all the way through the second layer up top there, then you would have had similar sized sections, but that's not the case. So they're always switching up their sizes and shapes. That's what fooled the geologists for centuries, for millennia. People looking at the land would never suspect that any of this was built because the sizes of the sections were different sizes and different shapes. We can see when we just open our eyes and ask the question, is what I'm looking at natural or artificial? Then we can see the signs of artifice. So we have integral sections. What does that mean? It means there's no cracks or no fractures. So the section itself is strong, but suddenly there's a full break. Well, what is that break? Is it a fracture that happened naturally over time in sedimentary material? Or would the evidence suggest that this is a seam between two sections, and that seam has come apart and was meant to come apart? I'll just throw that in there. These were meant to come apart. Or these seams were actually open seams from the beginning because they were meant to come down as part of the creation of soil mass over time. So in other words, the upper layers of creek banks and river banks are meant to eventually come out. So there's smaller sections compared to these massive sections down here, right? Smaller and not joined strongly left to right. Whereas these sections, these massive sections, which are not meant to come out or not meant to erode and create soil mass, they're meant to stay here. These sections are joined really strongly. So there's no sense that these are coming apart whatsoever. The sections are integral. So those two sections right there are each strong within themselves. And then they have a vertical break through sedimentary material. Well, the geologists don't explain that. They just say, oh, it just happened that way. Oh, it just happened? Oh, that's a great explanation. Thanks. That's scientific. Well, the terraforming theory uses science to explain what's going on. Well, here's a line that geologists can't explain. So this single line falsifies geology. This single line, this single vertical line shows us that this cannot be sedimentary material. Why? Because this layer in the middle of the screen is meant to be one time period. This layer is meant to be another time period. This layer is meant to be another time period. How does this line, starting here, vertical line, straight vertical line, straight right angle vertical line, go through 2, 3. We have 4 layers. Now here we have something that you could say, well, that's definitely a crack. Well, I'm not sure if it's a crack or a fracture, but that looks more like a natural crack, okay? So, but then we have something like this, and we know that that's not a natural crack. They sectioned it left to right. We got a, and then they said, okay, to build strongly, we don't want to have a vertical line through the next section, so they didn't have it there, so it's stronger. Everything's asymmetrical, everything's different sizes, different shapes, different angles. So this doesn't go straight through like this, it goes this way to the left. Because straight through would be this way, but it's going to the left, unlike some of the other lines. So it's giving you different shaped sections. And this one goes off to the right instead of off to the left. So they're always changing the directions. So integral section, sudden vertical line. See how they stepped it down? And those aren't sedimentary layers. That's just concrete that's stepping down. It's one molded mass that's just stepping down. So let me get next to it so you can see what I'm talking about. See, there's no sedimentary layering going on. There's no lines that tell us these are sedimentary. Geologists would just say, ignore that, take the test, shut up, sit down. Don't look at that. It's irrelevant, it just happened. Don't worry about it. Well, I am worried about it because I want to know the truth about my planet. When I say my planet, I mean the planet I grew up on. I don't own it. Nobody owns the planet. Someone did build it though, and then either they went away or they're still here, but we can't see them because they're in a different dimension. They're in a different frequency. Maybe they're still here. And we're at this lower frequency. That's the thing about diagnosing the true ancient continents this late in the game. There's a lot of erosion. There's a lot of things that have happened that obscure what we're trying to see. There's soil over the concrete, there's foliage over the concrete, there's erosion that does take place even though the concrete is so strong. Now here is the coup de grace right here, because even though these lower sections do not in general have section breaks, they'll go for 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 meters left to right. This lower section does have a section break. Okay, so here it is. Straight line. Keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. All right? And you say, but that could be natural, really. But there's a regularity to it right here. Right? See how knobby this is on top? Non-regular, totally knobby, right? And then suddenly, oh, no knobs. Just like the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun concrete. That's how we know it's artificial. Cannot be natural. Okay? But even if we didn't have that, we'd still have the straight line. That's how we know it's built. Nothing could be more obvious.